All right, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Jobs, Careers, and Future of Work podcast. My name is Brandon Sanger, and I'm here with my other host, Bill Golden. And today our guest is Suzan Jawed. So this is our first episode. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll have them introduce themselves too. So, like I mentioned before, my name is Brandon Sanger. I'm a recent graduate from Christopher Newport University. I majored in psychology and minored in communications, and I am the recruiting event coordinator for GTSC. So, Bill, do you want to tell them about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Bill Golden. I'm senior recruiter with GTSC, and I actually recruit for a number of other organizations. If you're on LinkedIn, you see me there almost 24/7. Thank goodness for scheduling software. And I can recommend some to you if you need it. I look across all different kinds of industries and keep up with all kinds of jobs. Log on, share your resume with me, and each Wednesday we sponsor a career day, and employers are welcome to join us, and I share all the resumes that I've collected over the week with those employers plus people who register.
Hi everyone, my name is Suzan Jawed and I'm a talent partner here at GTSC, and I support a lot of the recruiting functions and also a lot of just the business development and just the new contracts that are coming in. I support recruiting for those, and I basically liaison with the program managers and the hiring managers in showcasing resumes and phone screens. I have over 15 years of recruiting experience in the federal and commercial sectors, and I'm on Wednesdays. I will basically be in a job fair, a virtual fair, and I showcase a lot of the jobs that we have, the active positions we have. So definitely come join us virtually every Wednesdays from 10 to 2 p.m.
All right, well, now with our introductions out of the way, let's start asking you some questions. So, you're a recruiter. How did you fall into that position? Is it something that you've always wanted to do, or is it something you kind of navigated towards just generally through working experience?
So great question. So basically, I started off with doing more HR emphasis. I had my bachelor's in psychology and I did some postgraduate work in HR. So I really gained interest in recruiting once I was in HR and saw that there was a need for a ready to fill position that was open for over like 90 days. So the HR department asked me to help. And that's where I saw the cradle to grave process of recruiting. And I really felt it really sparked my interest. And I really started to enjoy the process. From there on, I recruited for several contracts, for several subcontracts, and for proposal recruiting. I started off with a large scale proposal that required 400 FTE. And that's really where I learned a proposal, BD, development recruiting. And that's where I felt compassionate towards that type of recruiting on finding FTEs to fill slots for proposals that the government basically bid for.
Let me jump in here. So you mentioned two things. First, what is an FTE? And cradle to grave recruiting. Are you like hiring and then burying them somewhere? Are the bodies in the back room? What's up with that?
So, cradle to grave is a term that we use. Basically, it revolves around cradle, which means basically it's like a baby cradle, but it's like a resume that we've sourced, a resume that we've added into our pipeline, and that no one has really reached out to. And then we start reaching out to them. We start presenting them with the recruiting process and seeing where their skills would fit. Grave process is not just burying them to that term, but burying them into a position, into a company, and putting them into a system. It's kind of a dreary term, but it's a well-known process. But basically, it's a full life cycle process, which starts off from sourcing initially to the offer end stage, where the candidate either accepts the offer or does not, rejects the offer.
And you will hear that term a lot in the recruiting and HR community. What is an FTE? Is
So
that
an
like a job type or?
So an FT is a term that we use in a lot of the business development proposal recruiting. FTEs are full-time employees. So the reason they say full-time employees is that they are employees that will work for that specific company and will acquire the 40 hours a week standard, 40 hours a week, 8 hours. It could be 8 to 10 hours a day, but they are basically full-time employees with benefits.
Okay.
All right.
So
there's a lot of funky terms in recruiting. So a lot of times recruiters, when we talk, it's like we have these acronyms, and sometimes people from the outside are like, oh, wait, I don't recall that, or that doesn't sound familiar to me. And it's when a recruiter talks to another recruiter, it's like, I know what you're saying. But it's good to define these, because people that want to delve into recruiting, they'll know what we're talking about. It's just good insight as well.
Well, here's another one. Ghosting. Okay, so ghosting is a two-way street. Sometimes you got this great job, you get an applicant, you bust butt to get them into the system, and they disappear on you. By the same token, you have applied, you've gone through the system, and then you never hear from the company. What is ghosting, and maybe what are some ways to try and prevent ghosting?
So ghosting happens, we're in October, so we can use some spooky terms.
Boo, Halloween is coming.
So ghosting basically means that we found that candidate, we found that purple squirrel, and they're amazing. They have a full level clearance. A clearance is also an authorization to work for a government customer. Now, a lot of people don't understand different levels of clearances, but there's several different. And I won't go into that right now, but basically it's an authorization to work on a federal or government contract. And people with clearances, if we find someone with that's a purple squirrel, that means they're basically a very hard to find candidate with a high level clearance and with a skill set that is very hard to find. Now, it used to be software developers, but now it's like zero trust. Now it's like
Actually, it's many different things.
It's many different things now, and it's not just a software developer, or it's not just a specific skill set, but a lot of times we do find those candidates that are hard to find candidates with hard to find skill sets, and they're perfect. And we will engage with them. We will talk to them through LinkedIn, through text message, through phone, through email. And they'll respond to us, and we'll get very excited, and we'll even screen them, and we'll get their desired, career growth, or their desired position, why they're leaving their position. Also, they'll give us a scenario of their desired compensation and what desired benefits they'll like. And so they'll have a conversation with us back to forth, and then all of a sudden we'll submit them to the hiring manager. And then all of a sudden, they will just vanish. They won't respond.
That's terrible.
They won't respond.
Purple squirrel. Okay, so we're going to do everything we can to keep them from ghosting. And we're not going to ghost them either. I always send a little, I'm sorry it didn't work out, or another candidate was hired, or the contract may have been delayed, etc. You mentioned purple squirrels. Do they come in other colors? And what is another name for purple squirrels that has something to do with a horse and just one horn?
Yeah, so we're also in October again, so we're gonna play different costumes. But I wish I could add a Giphy like those little, but it's a purple unicorn, and it's a
That's
flying
right.
unicorn basically with wings. I know with different companies. It's just basically it just describes a very hard to fill skill set. And
So
the
hard that sometimes no one actually believes they exist.
Yeah, and sometimes hiring managers will be like, "Wait, I don't think you found that one. I don't think." And then they'll look at the resume, they'll be like, "Oh, yes, you did find them." But apparently these people are the most sought out people in the recruiting industry. That means every recruiter from every company throughout the Beltway has reached out to them already, and they've already had several conversations. So they are very, they'll see what they like and they'll see, what they don't like. And they'll see, okay, is this a fit for me? Is this a fit for me and my family? Nah, but let me ask them, how much it
Right.
costs, how much the compensation is or how the benefits are. And then they'll say, nah, it's not my thing. But for us, we can do the best we can in our communication. And even though it's not a fit for them, we can still engage in dialogue with them, stating, okay, well, I'm sorry if this was not a fit for you, but we'd like to keep in touch with you through LinkedIn, through email, and we'd like to tell you our hot jobs or inform you of our hot opportunities that we have on a monthly basis. And sometimes they'll say, okay, sure, I'd be interested. I'm just not interested at this time. And
And
you
we
know,
call that what? A pipeline.
right, a pipeline.
Whoa.
And a
So do
lot
you
of
pipeline candidates?
A lot. We've pipelined so much that sometimes it happens where, oh, well, this person did not work out here, but they'll work out here, and we present them, and it works out. So it's very imperative to have a pipeline. Doesn't matter if they don't have a clearance or they don't have the skill set. Or they're working on a certification. That's where you want to pipeline them, because that certification can take up to 3 to 6 months and they can have it and then they'll be certified. So in that regards, then they'll have the requirements that are needed for the actual position. Even with clearances, sometimes they are put in for a specific level of clearance and they won't obtain that until probably 6 to 12 months. So
Right.
it's always best to keep them in a pipeline so that later on you can engage with them and let them know, hey, we have this hot job opportunity. And that promotes them to look at us as career growth, upward trajectory career growth for them. They have this new clearance, they have this new certification, or they have a post bachelor degree or a
Right.
postgraduate degree now, and you're going to look at them differently because their skill sets have upgraded.
Now, on pipeline, that's not always just I'm looking for a job today, but it didn't work out. Maybe my contract is coming to an end, or maybe it's being recompeted in 6 months, and I don't believe my current employer is going to get this one right. Or maybe I'm working on a certification, and that won't be until another 6 months. Should those people be sending you their resumes and connecting with you now, even though it could be some 6 or more months away?
Absolutely, because sometimes it can come sooner. The contracts can end a lot sooner. Even sometimes with these big corporations, the contracts end a lot sooner, and then their mobility team. Mobility is basically a retention team that helps their. It's a corporate team that helps their employees once they've lost contracts or once their contracts have ended, to help them gain new employment in other areas of the company. And a lot of times they don't find a fit just because the government was paying a certain cost for them. They had certain benefits, they had top tier benefits. And so they're just not able to accommodate that. So in that regards, then they're actively looking. So it's always important to keep folks, candidates such as like that in pipelines. And also, I would like to add new graduates as well, who have graduated. And it's also important to keep them in pipelines because there are always positions that are looking to have folks, have candidates cleared in an initial entry level role. So it's always great to have a pipeline that exists with entry level folks, also throughout folks that have leadership positions, that have leadership skill sets.
And let's talk about that in another way. So new grads or people without clearances, because you don't recruit just for clearances, correct?
Correct. We recruit all types, even people who have not even entered the world of clearances. We recruit for all types of backgrounds and levels. So it's always great to have a versatile pipeline. Now we do see candidates who understand the market, who understand a little bit about what the intelligence community is about, or at least what the DoD's Department of Defense or government or federal contracts are about.
And
Or at
that's your
least,
primary world of jobs, right?
right, correct.
Now you work with, you have a portfolio of companies, a portfolio of jobs. One of the companies you work with, let's talk about them right now, the Bowen Group. They have, I believe, so they have virtual jobs across the USA in financial counseling, mental health help desk, webmasters. They need editors, and what would you say? Probably 80 to 90% of their jobs require no clearance at all.
Right. They require no clearances at all, and a lot of them are focused on folks that have just between 1 to 2 years of experience as well. So more on the entry level. And a lot of them just do not require certain certifications. So it's a very versatile group, and we're happy to say that we join with them in helping them recruit for their positions as well.
And the Bowen Group, so this is not like the aircraft. This is BOWEN, theboeingroup.com, so you can find them. Now you work with a company, AEITS, Advanced Engineering and IT Services. They have a benefit that's just amazing, a 15% 401k. Now, some people might say, okay, well, this company is going to offer me 15,000 hiring bonus, but what is the benefit? A 15% 401k actually is a lot more money than a 15k hiring bonus. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so if you think about saving for your 401k, if you think about your 401k itself, I mean, the company vests in you as well. But besides that, they also have an allotted percentage of benefits that they allot for you to invest in. So 15%, if you look at that, that's very high,
Some of
especially.
the jobs you hire for are what, 150 or even more, although maybe 120 is probably closer. So 15% of just 100,000, that's 15,000 right there. That already beats the 15,000 hiring bonus.
Right.
And of course, if most companies offer 401ks, so we begin to push that up. You could be putting more than 20, even 25,000 a year into your retirement
And a
at
lot
high
of people
interest.
at high interest, and not everyone looks at that very clearly. People realize that a lot later when you talk to them. People that have been in the industry for a long time understand this. But I would say people that are in their early careers don't really take advantage of it. So it's something that should be shared and should be basically informed to the individual that's being hired, to the candidate, that how important this is. I know that another benefit ITS has is the 4 weeks of comprehensive annual leave, which is 20 work days, which I will tell you, I've worked for several companies, and that's given with top tier level 4 benefits. So that's also a great incentive.
Sure, especially when you throw in the federal holidays and everything else. You're
Right.
really looking at, although the federal holidays don't all happen at once, of course, but you're really looking at about 6 weeks off easily, minimum a
Yeah.
year that's paid. So
And
I'm
I
going to turn
worked
it over.
Yeah, and I work for a company. I won't name any names, but it's a large, it was a large government contractor, a very large one, and they gave that benefits to people that were at the top level, like they were at the directorate level, and that's the benefits they received.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Brandon here in a moment because I can talk forever. And I'm sure Brandon has some questions for you. But you have some jobs that you really need to fill. What are those jobs?
Well, I will tell you, we have a cyber systems requirement analyst, which is
Just one?
just
Just one?
just one for now. We have an active filling. It's a high priority. It's basically 7+ years of experience. Someone with a bachelor's in computer science and information assurance, also information engineering, information systems engineering, and someone who has some experience with a federal customer. And that experience can also be substituted with like a bachelor's degree or a advanced degree as well. It's in it's in the Columbia, Maryland area.
Now, I believe there are some relevant top secret SCI CIO positions in the Mark Center, Alexandria, Springfield area as well. So it's kind of like you have some relevant acquisition. Now, Virginia customer, Maryland customer, those are kind of buzzwords and keywords and shh to certain people out there in the audience because we're not going to mention the 3-letter agencies. But I believe that you need about 10 acquisition professionals. One
Yes.
junior, about 5 years for the Virginia customer, and about 6 seniors at the 16 to 20 years plus level, almost working in CETA roles, which is a systems engineer or a special engineer. Anyway, it's SETA, whatever the heck that means. I done forgot. And you need like 3 or 4 of those up for the Maryland customer who uses the term AP3 and AP4. Are you easy to reach about these?
Oh, absolutely. Please contact me either through LinkedIn or through, you can give me a call, and you can send me an email at my email address at sjawed@gtsc.com. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always on LinkedIn posting. I'm always online, and you can give me a call as well. I can share my phone number as well.
Brandon, over to you.
All right. One thing I want to talk about is resumes. It's something I'm really curious about, and I feel like a lot of people listening would have interested in hearing is what do you see a lot on resumes that you think could be changed or that people should include? Because as a recent graduate, talking to many different recruiters, I was told to go through so many different iterations of my resume, and none of them seemed perfect. Everybody had some criticism of one or the other. So what are you looking for specifically, and what are some common things that you see that should be changed?
So definitely the formatting. I know a lot of candidates that have just graduated are confused with the formatting, or they have very big, bold formatting. Formatting is important, but it should be structured in a way where it's able to be read. Us recruiters will take 5 to 10 minutes tops just skimming through a resume, because again, we're just trying to look at it as a whole, and we'll give them a call immediately to go over specific details of the resume. The first thing I see in a resume is I want to see the education on the upper portion of the resume. A lot of times it's at the last page or way down below. That it should be all the way up. It should be right after the purpose summary, the purpose statement. It should be right after that, because
And it doesn't need to be all the information like
Right.
year graduated,
Yeah.
the school, something short like I have a TSSCI with a BS in IT, and then you can put the details at the end.
Yeah, and that's very important. Definitely the degree, the education. It doesn't have to be, that you've graduated this year, even though you haven't graduated or you're doing postgraduate work. You can just put that, and then we'll basically, us as recruiters, will give you a call and talk through that. But yeah, a lot of times I'm not seeing the education at the front end of the resume, and that should be center and front, because a lot of times recruiters will skim through resumes and they'll be like, oh, this person doesn't even have a bachelor's, and they don't realize that the bachelor's is on the second page. And then they'll be like, well, why was it on the second page? It should be on the first one, especially even I don't know if, but like a lot of times GPA is also added. Now, some companies do want GPAs, but for our positions, we don't require that. And we don't also require the year to be put. So it depends company to company at times. I know a lot of the big four companies, accounting firms, they require the GPAs, they require the year that you graduated. But a lot of the federal and commercial industries don't really look at that.
Okay, so that answers a lot of questions. What do you think about length? Because I know going to job fairs with you guys, sometimes we'll get one concise page and sometimes we'll get a packet with 5 pages.
I've gotten up to a 27-page resume.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is it ever necessary to have that much content? Is there ever that much important stuff that should be featured, or is there a max length you want to see?
So I'll go back to a point that we brought up, I think, at another earlier fair. We brought up a good point that folks, candidates that have over 40 years of experience on their resume, sometimes they tend to want to leave that all out, because it's just making their resume like 20 pages or 30 pages. It's essential to keep that information, but to put it in a way where it's condensed into about 5 to 6 sentences. And that way, we're not sitting there reading a book, but we're sitting there looking at actual experience and going through each of those levels of experience. A lot of times, I've seen resumes where a person who has an engineering background, but they've been through so many different contracts throughout their career that they've listed each contract, and it's probably like 15 to 20 contracts. In that regards, I would say you would basically summarize it and state that you've worked for you've worked for contractors from this year to this year, and then to go into detail when the recruiter is screening them, to go into detail about the names of the contracts. Because initially, when you're talking, you want to just give a sporadic message on exactly what you've done throughout your career tenure. And then the background check, once you get an offer letter and you go through a background check, then that'll go ahead and pull out exactly which contracts you work for, which companies you work for, and how long you were there. But it's good to give a clear, concise, short couple sentences on each career path you took.
Any comments, Bill?
No, Suzanne, I think did a brilliant job of that. Sometimes resumes are religious in the sense that some recruiters want to see certain things and others. And sometimes that can be by industry. So the advice you get from one recruiter may not be the same as from another. But I think in almost all circumstances, Suzanne is both experienced and gave very good advice. The one thing I would tell you is remember that you need multiple versions of your resumes. When you go to a job fair, you do not need to be bringing your resume in a wagon, pulling it behind you. No one's going to read the darn thing. I always tell people, take your entire resume, I don't care how long it is, fold it in half. The first half of the first page is going to demonstrate whether you're relevant, whether I should care. So what are your certifications, et cetera? Don't need details, but I do need to see you have certification 1, 2, 3. You know this system, so whether you call it a summary statement, a profile, or whatever, get to the point. And then I want to see your first job description, which should be in the most current job description. I want to see if that actually matches. So are you using the skills? Like I read a resume this morning. The person had amazing certifications, but basically they took a year off of work, went to school, got the certifications, which are very good certifications, but they've never worked any of it a day in their life. So that's going to be a major challenge for them to find an employer that cares. And of course, they wanted to work within the certifications. But that's really my only thought. Save that big resume for online and come up with a few pages, whether 1, 2, 3, I don't really care, if you're going to present it to a human.
Or frame it next to your office space so you can look at it and be like, wow, I did all of this. But do not bring it to a career fair, because we will go over just the summary of it, and we will tell you to condense it. And condensing it is actually easier, not just for us, but it's for the candidate itself.
One more important question that I had for both of you guys actually is, how has job boards and hiring websites such as Indeed or Glassdoor impacted the world of recruiting, and how is it going to shape the future of work?
Well, let me go first on that. So I started Intelligence Careers back in 1997 as a job board. Actually, I started to find myself a job because I come out of the cleared community. And back in the 1990s, before 1998, you couldn't actually say that you had a security clearance, and a company could not advertise that the job required a security clearance. So when I started Intelligence Careers, it started out for me to find a job. At one point, and Intelligence Careers is no longer a job board any longer. It's a jobs clearinghouse where employers are welcome to put their jobs online for free. And I use it mostly to share information about jobs and opportunities elsewhere. But at one time, Intelligence Careers had up to 700 and over 50 recruiters using it, subscribed to paying recruiters using it on a regular basis. The world of LinkedIn and Glassdoor and all of these things really did change the market. So I made my choice at some point about really between 2013 to 2016 that I could keep trying to play catch up and run a job board, or I could go off and become like the industry senior consultant, everyone's grandfather type, the crazy uncle that knows everyone. And so far, the crazy uncle that knows everyone has worked out really well for me. Which is why you'll see me on LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere else. But one of the ways that has changed it is the job boards that are out there generally have become hyper reactive, hyper focused, and in some cases there are fewer of them. But social media has put great pressure on even the successful job boards. And then some of the things that are job boards, such as Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, et cetera, they're job boards and yet they're not. They're kind of like Google on steroids, and they charge companies to You always hear the ZipRecruiter commercial. Oh, put your jobs on for free, but that usually lasts like 1 week, and it's for maybe one or two or three jobs, and then money, 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 which does make the world go round, by the way. But it really has come down to a couple of, we call them job aggregators, which is what most people refer to ZipRecruiter and Indeed as. Things like LinkedIn have just changed everything. And you will see Suzanne on LinkedIn all the time. You will see me on LinkedIn all the time. And I'm beginning to see you there all the time, Brandon. So over to Suzanne.
Yeah, so definitely I like to piggyback on all of the things Bill mentioned. Those are very imperative. Um, Definitely ideals for the technology and the impact of technology on recruiting. Technology, including like hiring websites, social media, and applicant tracking systems, that they have significantly impacted the recruiting profession as a whole. It has made like the recruiting process, which I had mentioned earlier, the cradle to grave process, a lot more efficient. The full life cycle process of a recruiter, it's allowed recruiters to reach a wider audience and streamline their workflow. And then it's also for the future. And we're already seeing this. This technology is likely to basically, it's continuing to shape the recruitment landscape through AI-driven tools for candidate sourcing and assessment, video interviews, and data analytics to identify like the best candidates. One aspect of that is the diversity and inclusion. Different scenarios for that, identifying the best fit for candidates who are diverse, and including them in that recruiting candidate flow, making sure that we are basically addressing a wide variety of diverse candidates. So that's a very big scope right now, and it's because of the impact of technology on recruiting.
And we should probably have an entire program on artificial
Right.
intelligence. It is changing. I made a hire recently to where I kind of felt cheated, but I was proud of the candidate at the same time. I had spent months looking for someone who could answer a particular question. So I asked this one candidate, why should I hire you? Drop me an email. Ding! 30 seconds later, I get an email with 3 paragraphs. Chat GPT. I just know they used it. On the other hand, they were brilliant enough to use it and to find the right answer because, to make chicken soup. Sure, it works for me too. Whatever you need to know is out there. So if you go find the answer, use the tools that are available. We did hire them, although I still feel to this day that they looked up the answer by just, let me have a drink of coffee, Chat GPT, what is it? But they did have the technical background. We did hire them. And 5 months later, they are still doing well.
A lot
No
of these
grave.
a lot of these AI-driven tools are helping candidates, entry-level candidates, because they know these tools very well. So it's helping them with cover letters. It's helping them, create purpose statements. I had a candidate who was at the virtual fair yesterday, and he was an entry-level candidate. He sent me his resume and he told me, hey, I just want to let you know my purpose statement is derived from ChatGPT because I could not word it in a way where it just sounded right. And I was like, aha. So I said, so this tool has become very popular. He said, oh, you have no idea. On college campuses, this is like the big thing. This is what's helping us get our cover letters, help with cover letters, help with statements, help with everything. And I'm just like, wow, this tool is really, it's coming into a forefront where people using it. I'm still, I'm venturing into this technology and being aware of these trends. But at the same time, I started recruiting when it was that technology, I started recruiting at a time where technology couldn't replace not a human touch, but a human voice in recruiting and basically gathering this recruiter candidate relationship and interpersonal skills. They're still crucial to our industry. And, when you're talking to candidates, you have to look at everything. You have to look at, if they have a family, if they're looking for upward career growth, you have to give motivating messages to them. Everything can't be just relied through technology.
And AI can help there. So one of the things when I first met Brandon, and I was talking about, going to job fairs as a recruiter. One of the things I said is, in some ways, you're going to find yourself very quickly feeling like a priest. You have lost sheep that you meet at every job fair, whether they're young, especially the older ones, the more mature. It's like, Bill, I have 20 years of experience. And you'll hear me at a job fair, but I can say that I got the white hair. You'll hear me at a job fair and talking to someone who's 45, and I'll say, young man, what would you like to be when you grow up? And they'll look at me and smile and it's like, the hell if I know. I got 20 years experience and 2 degrees, and I've been around the world, and I've been in the current job I have for 10 years. I haven't really thought about whatever, and the world seems to have changed. If you go into an artificial system like Chat GPT, and you say, I have these skills and this expertise, and I have these interests, what kinds of jobs are there? You could replace me. Not that would be easy. That's why I carry a bag of cookies around with me. So you can never replace me because I'm handing out cookies. Chat GPT does not hand out cookies except on your computer. Anyway, back to you.
I think not just cookies, but just follow-ups. You can follow up with ChatGPT all you want, but they're not going to help you accept that offer either. They're not going
That's
to
right.
tell you, oh, well, this company benefits are they're given at discretion. So it's not, they'll have the standard benefits, but for some skill sets, they have different benefits. So
you mean we still need humans?
Sad to say, but yes, you still need a human to kind
No sadness. We are some of the most helpful people. And that is why, again, you mentioned earlier that we're always on LinkedIn and everything. We are very helpful people. And even though we all have jobs that we are trying to fill for whomever, GTSC, the Boeing Group, AEITS, ZA, Zapata, whomever. If we don't have that job and you share your resume with us and tell us what you want to be when you grow up, we would do our best to connect you, identify an employer and connect you with that employer if we can. Humans, you need humans and cookies.
Absolutely. And, definitely have, ChatGPT with, your ride through recruiting. They'll definitely help you with that and definitely take advantage of that tool for sure. But at the same time, folks with different level of clearances, even though they meet their criteria, a lot of times they get submitted to different government or federal contracts, even if they don't have clearances. And it's the government that also makes the decision on exactly what level they should be hired at or what skill set they don't have. Sometimes they can look great on paper, great in writing, but once you have an actual face-to-face interview, and a lot of the federal agencies still do that to this day, once you have a face-to-face interview or even a virtual interview, they make the final decision on whether you meet the requirements or not. And a lot of times it's very important to know exactly what you're talking about.
All right, well, I think we're running out of time here. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or say before we go?
Let's put a link in the comments when this gets posted. If you have a question about careers, jobs, money, etc., we will put a link online to where you can submit your question. And next week, we will take the 5 most interesting questions, and all questions are interesting to me.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And and just more to look forward to our podcast is we'll have new guests that have impacted the recruiting industry. We'll have guests that are, that have made paved the way for recruiting. We'll have different guests that show up.
You can
So,
even invite yourself to be a guest if you have a story,
yeah.
you want to talk about your company, your contract, your opportunities, share your cookies. Contact Brandon Singer. His phone number and all and email will be in the comments, and it's all over the webpage. And again, you can find Brandon online at LinkedIn all the time. All the time.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on here, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank
Y'all
you.
take care.
Have a great day. Thank you.